Yeah, welcome to the Fresh Space. And as you find yourself tuning in now, wherever you are, this is Linley, Tyrone, and Daryl. We're going to explore a couple of concepts, but we'll take it at the root and talk about what is Fresh Space, how did it come about, why is it about, and what does the truth have to do with anything fresh at all. So, introductions. I'm Daryl. I guess no accreditation required because wherever you're watching this, it doesn't really matter. We're human right now. And we don't want to bring in any religious or Christianity point of view or perspectives, but should you believe in God, I think you're holding on to a very valuable plank in life. In this storm of a pandemic where we find ourselves. So the date and timestamp is the 6th of July. 7th of July? 7th of June. Oh my God. It's lockdown.
That lost track of time.
Woo!
Guys, I'm telling you.
Perceptions of reality. Eh?
I'm starting to think there's 8 days in a week now. Hey.
Maybe that's why you're late. It's like you're a whole day behind.
You know what's funny? Is that I've discovered now with Lindsay that every clock has its own time in the house. Like, and everything has been set 5 to 10 minutes faster somewhere.
You just feel like you're being lied to at home.
I feel like I'm a character of the Truman Show or something like this. There's something behind the scenes. Well, coming back to the structure, Linley, Tyrone, it's all about you guys. Who are you?
Oh, I think I'll go. I'm Tyron Marinas, and I know these guys. I think that's the best way I can describe how I fit in. But yeah, part of the fresh space. We have to actually clear that up what it is. But yeah, happy to be here. I think Lenny can take it from there. There's a lot more to say.
And I'm Linley Pillay. I mean, what more do you need to know? We'll get to know
Hello,
each other as we go along.
Hello. Yeah, we realize that whoever's watching, this is the first episode of character building. I've been accused of having no character, but that's got nothing to do with the show.
On the contrary, you are a great character.
You are a character.
Nice, a correct type for you play now. And the truth of the comment is that it's all about friendship, and I guess that's the journey that you take. You get to know these little quirks, those silly little nicknames like tracksuit and the history behind it. But that is what Fresh Space for me is, and then I'll dive into the first perspective or first subtopic in the intro is like, how was this idea born of a Fresh Space before we talk about why it exists? Because I think we're still trying to figure out the why. And as an opinion, as my opinion, as an opinionated show, we're not holding on to anything being, accredited that by our accreditation we can stamp these things off for the world. This is our opinion. You're free to accept it, and you are encouraged to question it. We encourage that in this space. So that's how it was born for me. I was questioning when I met Tyrone and Linley. And I think when I met Linley, the question was around truth, and the ignition of the conversation was, what is truth, and why are we standing and having this conversation outside a church and not inside in the pews with the pastor? And I think there was a lot of truth to that when you meet people along life, for me, it was that similar mindset that there's something awry, that you not everything is happy-go-lucky. There's sorrows in the world, but there's an underlying truth, and it's not that we're trying to be conspiracy theorists, but we realize that there has to be a fresh approach to life. And I spoke to someone where they were referring to me, you were born last week, because nowadays you need to fill in your ID number everywhere you go. And I said to this person, well, I've been privy to realize that they still call us millennials, despite the millennium changing so long ago. And everything that had transpired since then has been almost like a revelation of truth. I think with the pandemic now, and where technology is moving to, and the ability that we have to do this, um, we are definitely finding ourselves in a new space where church is not a requirement in order to find the truth. Sorry, so that's how it was born for me. I wanted something that isn't specifically propaganda truth, and I'm not labeling it to any organization, but just I wanted to speak to people that have mindsets that are challenging the status quo and the reality. Lindley, let's sing it. I get to choose. I'll be like that. So Lindley, what was your journey on, and how did this idea come about for you?
So, I'm not sure if everybody would be familiar with Jason Upton, but there's a song in one of his albums called First Language, I think. And obviously, you must go listen to the song for yourself, but the concept of the song is that it just starts with some grunting, and eventually, after the whole song ends, he's ultimately singing Daddy, and it took a certain period of time. Then he says, "Finally, my lips can say Daddy." But I think some things take time to articulate over life. So when I joined church, I was never settled and happy internally. I just couldn't articulate why. And I suppose my search for the truth has always been, and this started before coming to church or anything. So my question is always, what is the truth? And then, you deal with the fallout afterwards. But I could never settle within the church context of life, thinking that is everything that there is to do, for lack of a better word, to say that this is your relationship with God, and that is, as far as it goes, you join a church, you sit in the pews, you maybe go up in the ranks of that particular church, but then, I mean...
Ranks.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like, the pecking
Yeah.
order. And it just seems like another space of everything that is normal outside of the church. They will, by their mouth, say we are different, but I'm sure anybody who's been in a church long enough knows they're not different. It's actually no different. And I couldn't settle for something like that. I always believed there was something different. And I'm not saying that I was looking for the truth for everyone else. So it's just, I'm not happy with something. Something is eating at my soul. I need to do something about that. Because otherwise, you're going to settle for something. And once again, Jason Upton was at that conference. I think it was 2012. And their band played, and they had been flown over by the church. And they were having a chat with the worship team. We've had this conversation before, obviously, so you're gonna be bored. But the drummer
But for those that
somewhat
must.
of an eclectic person, I think, because he has the ability to play in different genres and likes different music. And then the worship teams there were asking him what style of music does Jason Upton play, and then he was like, if you must force it to a genre, it would be jazz. And I mean, you're telling Cape Town people that Jason Upton is jazz. No. That's not jazz. And he said, no. You have to understand that jazz, when it was born, was improv.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuck with me, because he was saying then that, as far as he knows as a musician, everybody that plays music, that loves music, always wants to find that real... there's one thing about singing about your pain, but when you're really singing about your pain as if you're experiencing it, you translate
I almost
that.
want to say, Sorry, I almost want to say you can be cliche and say he's trying to find that fresh space. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. No, just ruin the punchline.
where
It's good.
No,
I
but
think you've
then
heard the story before.
I was sitting
but
months
it's like a
after that.
moment of magic. It's like a moment of magic. I think what you're referring to, that
Yeah,
moment in a
if you
song
believe
where
in magic.
yeah.
But I call it realness. It's like we've all had the conversations that are just dilly-dallying around things, and then there's times when you're really talking about, you know,
Mm,
you're dealing with the authentic self of everybody involved. Nobody's coming there to put up a facade. They're just being themselves. They genuinely want to know, and that doesn't happen that often, especially not in the church.
mm,
So and this time I still had a job that time. Something about that band bothered me, not in a bad way. It's just like these are guys that have families, children, and this is what they do, man. Like they didn't go study after school. They didn't go and get a career path. They decided that they're gonna devote their lives to playing music and not even normal music. Open
At the
themselves
time.
to whatever is possible. Travel the world and share that with people. And not even like they're not even demanding a salary or whatever, just but somehow they survive. See, that is very unorthodox, especially for the South African environment. If anything, in our environment, people never ever fight for what they really want to do. They tend to settle on this is what we have to do to pay the bills. And it was just something I had that little irritation in here when like I'm working at a place that couldn't care two flying hoots about me personally.
mm.
Secondly, am I really doing what I want to do? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my days? Never mind asking the God question. Is this what God wants me to do? I mean, that's just, we'll deal with that at another day. And then, I suppose months later, I was sitting there thinking that if we believe that God lives outside of time, then technically speaking, He could experience real time the best of everything. So He could literally go to Beethoven, Mozart, and all of those guys and have like a real time experience of them. And then you listen to the current worship teams and you think, why on earth would you want to listen to that? And anything that we come up with is not necessarily on that playing field of music.
Yeah.
Why would you want to listen to it? And then I could only reason that it's that now moment. Because if the only thing that counts for us, whether we like it or not, is now. What are we doing now? Not what will we be doing. Yes, we can plan now for then, but we're still here now. We're never gonna be anywhere other than now. And and you can often, I mean, I'm trying to put it into words. It's like, and I've read many books over time, and then eventually you come across people that can sort of articulate what you suspect is real, and they also have their things, and then you sort of have to distill that process and whatever. And ultimately, what it comes down to is that neither one of us can have the full picture, but and therefore we also can't translate that to the next person. But the only thing we can do is be authentic and honest and share now. And if that now is real, then we have what we call that fresh space of things that happen, of
Yeah.
new things can get born here because we're not coming with an agenda. We're not asking something to be
Yeah.
something that we want to be in the future, but spending time now preparing for it. No, we're coming together hoping that now is now. But to do
Like
now, we need to get rid of that future approach and what worked yesterday and
Yeah.
and
Well,
yeah.
the well, the jazz band approach is still working. Yeah, it's
Just
like
don't mention
everybody's
that
waiting
word.
for
That
the
is a
opportunity.
swear word.
So it is what it is. It's still
Everybody's
good.
waiting for yeah. Everybody's
That's
waiting
still
for his
good.
opportunity to say his little bit, to do his little solo. But I think in the in the spirit of improv, that's probably the best thing about the conversations that we've had thus far. I mean, there is, and Lindsay, and I'm sure um, Charlene will also make reference to the fact that we do harp a bit on where we met as that organization and that structure, but I kind of feel like we can paint all of them with the same brush called church and church life and structure and organization and pecking order, and that finding the truth there is, it's a needle in a haystack. It's that one friend that you find where you're both busy questioning, and you're like, you know what? Is this people really for real? Is this really? Do we really need to do this?
Yeah.
And I think that is the bit of sanity that you get in a world that seems so insane. But the improv nature of like especially where your minds are at is what keeps the fresh space almost like a creative space. I mean, despite the tendency that we have for music and that element of creativity, just the conversations is some of the things I've never discussed with normal people, and I think it defines you guys are not normal. So thank you if you are listening to us and watching us. Welcome to the Not Normal Club.
I'm not sure if I must be if that's a compliment or, or insult. Not being normal. You know what I mean? You have to ask yourself the
Yeah,
question if you want to be that. Like,
I don't know. I mean, without painting a big enough picture of who you are, being distracted. My apologies.
no,
Uh,
that's fine.
if someone sticks out their tongue for you, you don't know what to do really. So, without painting too much of a picture of who you are, I mean, to to paint the reality about church is to also, identify what it's like to be a PK. And I think a a PK nowadays is like
You can't just say
you
PK. What does a PK mean?
so I was thinking of
Of the other
other
PK,
so a preacher's kid. So I think a lot of preachers' kids, and I'm saying this tied into where the generation is at now, are growing up without the facade of what it's like to be called into the ministry and to have all of that going on. I think there's been a huge transition, and I think that is one of the unique elements when I say you're not normal, Tyrone.
yeah. Look, in my case, it's also always been that no, we different. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm,
so easy to get into that, right? But you were saying you'd like to paint all the organizations under one brush as church, but that's all religion in general. You know what I mean? You can speak to any person within a structure of or set of rules of or prescribed way of how you're supposed to live. That basically boils down what religion is, man. So, okay, in my case, it was a bit unique because you always have to be the example. You know what I mean? Which every preacher's kid knows. That's we're not that. We try. We go out of our way to just kill that because you want to be yourself, man. And like you you become the mold, man. All the other kids want to be like you,
that's
and
true.
then your parent or whoever the preacher is in the family goes, okay, you have to then be this so that they can be like that. You know what I mean? But in the end of the day, that might not be who you are. You might not even care about the things they care about, and that's what's wrong,
I
and
mean,
that's the whole thing.
I mean, just to elaborate on what you're saying, one, one PK said to me that they've been born into leadership.
Yeah,
It's like from the get go, you, even as a child, you're supposed to be a leader in everything because somehow related to.
and even if you
Um,
don't want to, you when you get into the room, people assume you're like in my case, it was my dad. So people assume I'm like my dad, or I think like him, or I'm gonna react like him. And 9 out of 10 times, it ends in a conversation of, "Wow, you're nothing like your dad." You know what I mean? But like in a very negative way. They don't mean it as in, "Wow, you're nothing like it." They're like, "We didn't." It was basically, "We didn't expect you to be this way, man." You know what I mean? And then even if you like, I moved out of my dad's church and I moved to another church, then it was the same, man. But like, they didn't know I was a pastor's kid, but because I had the title of a Christian, there was a way
Mm.
I'm supposed to be, a language I'm supposed to talk, a way I'm supposed to react in each situation, which could be a lie. You know what I mean? You might be doing
Yeah.
the right thing, but in the end of the day, you're lying because you don't really want to do that thing. You want to smack
Mm.
someone, but you have to be like, "Oh no, I forgive you, man."
Oh, you mean ass?
Yeah, well, anything you want to smack someone in the face. If somebody's
Smack some
being
ass.
if somebody's being an asshole, man. No, I didn't mean it like that.
That's
But that too.
player,
No, but that
player.
too. That too.
Look,
You're gonna.
the one thing that we all know is that preachers' kids always have the first choice of the flock.
Not in my case. Not in my case. Not in my case.
Like,
I'll be
yeah,
honest
there's,
with you. Not in
there's
my
some
case.
new lambs in the flock.
There weren't a lot of lambs.
Let's go shepherd.
Let's
Let's
put it
go
that way.
shepherd them in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyhow, but it boils down to the same thing, and that's why I
yeah.
think a gathering like this is valuable because, like, I love that Lenny said there's no agenda, and there's no this is what it has to be. We're all just coming together with the same question. We want to know what is real. We want to know what is true. We want to know what is authentic, and we want to be that. And we're also willing to allow each other the space to fumble and fall around until we get somewhere to figure it out. When those organizations, when you walk in, everybody assumes that they already know what the truth is, and now you have to learn what they have to say. And the closer you get to these leaders, or let's just say in any religion, it's like that. You start to see how human they actually are. And
Mm.
9 out of 10, you could be a better person than them in most cases, but they assume to know the truth. So it's refreshing to be in a group of people who all say we don't know. Let's look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously,
And I think
some of us are further along in the journey than others, but that helps me. And like in Lenny's case, he's been out of the mold, I'd say, or out of the out of the box for a while, compared to you and I. And
mm,
he's not going, no, 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 shut up. This is how it has to be. Do you know what I mean? Or at least I hope. You know what I mean? So I think that's why this is valuable, man.
Look, I
yeah,
think
and
it's all
I
sorry, jumping in there. What were you gonna
no,
say?
go for it. I was just going to say that I agree fully with Tyrone that you are probably outside of the box a lot longer. Why cracking up?
Because you told Lenny go for it and then you started talking.
Because you also held back. I was like, it's like when you stop at a four-way stop, and I had that thing yesterday where four people stopped at the same time,
Oh,
and I was like,
now who's
I
gonna
just
go?
went. I went first. I just sorted that out. I'm turning left. I'm not going straight. I'm in a cup. And
Oh, no.
so sorry for turning left there at the stop street. Uh, what what I enjoyed most is that it's so valuable that the only time I feel free to have conversations like this outside of that organization called church is with other people outside of um, organizations, and we talk about religion. Meaning, I can have these conversations with Muslims, Buddhists, atheists. Then we can tap into deeper things and talk about reality. But when I talk about people in the church, then there's a mold that applies, and always a denominational culture that is referred to, like this Baptist thing or so forth. I actually don't care about it. I don't think the only reason I remember being a Baptist is because people used to make fun of me saying, "Bro, you got a pool and you care." And there was literally a pool there behind the stage or what. They're like, "You got a pool? Can you actually as a pastor and so cool?" And it was a cultural thing at that stage. You grow up and I started to identify with the culture, whereas that wasn't where I originally had experienced the organization church. And where I did experience it, it was a mission station that was um, built by a variety of families. So these families had legacies running hundreds of years within that community, and then this church was the central point. So, there was a lot of was a family thing, man. Like people,
Nepotism.
yeah,
Nepotism.
man. When people do, it's like arranged managing people. So breaking away from that and coming into a different church was a denominational change, but some of my strongest friendships were with Muslims because we could question things outside of the mold, and they would challenge me a lot more than the status quo of a Christian. Because they didn't look at the theology and the denominational approach. It's more like, who is Jesus and what is love? And Allah and Jesus and Muhammad were all the same, and Daryl, but I can't eat what you're eating. And that was the things I battled with and wanted to understand. So whenever I spoke to someone at church, their conversations was always around the conditions for this unconditional love, and how, without cursing, saying how messed up their lives are, and judging every action and questioning every drink and every party, every hookup. Was it the right thing? And that was not the questions I was battling with. Trust me, I was not battling with any of those questions. I did not doubt myself.
Yeah, me on the
Still
contrary.
don't.
I was like, by the time you ask those questions, they tell you, no, don't ask questions. Just do as you're told, or monkey see, monkey do. Don't have questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then making reference to what you were saying with Lonely being in that space earlier, I feel like I hadn't had anybody that. There was a few people, but they were generally, to be honest with you, all in Lindley's generation, without making you seem old, sir. And they were the only ones that were like, I think they like the Malcolm X generation, where they want to change. They don't just sit and theorize around things. They pick up stones and they throw the police. They were that generation in this country, for me. And I remember seeing them stand up to authority just because it's not right. So whenever I would sit down and talk to a Christian in that age group, they'd have a different perspective. And the ones before them were more parental and more baby boomers. Like this, the church is all about growing the church. It's all about, it had nothing to do about the truth at all.
Yeah. Well, that's in a time like this, I think as we're gonna get back to that kind of thinking of where people are actually gonna start asking a lot more questions or expecting a lot more from the religious structures, or even just the people saying they believe in God, and because people want to know, where does he fit into all this? Like, you know what I mean? During apartheid, people were having mass meetings, praying, whatever, and after apartheid was seemingly abolished, everybody was like, yeah, it's because we were praying. You know what I mean? So the question now remains is what's happening now? Like, you know what I mean? So as much as people have their standpoint and their questions, in the end of the day, how does that affect what we see around us, and do the two have anything to do with each other? You know what I mean? We know that whatever you believe, if it's God, whatever, there's a connection to man. So is it affecting the decision making of man? Is God involved in those things? Are humans then left to their own devices in those cases? So just like back then they wanted change, now people also want change, but where does God fit into those things? Or where does the church fit into those things? So a lot is being exposed with regards to what is being taught all the time. Now the free thinkers and the question askers are actually a lot more valuable to humanity than the people who seem to know it all. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the things that they say they know, they can't apply now. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to we going, what, where, how.
Well, sorry, Lindley, now.
Jump in earlier. No,
2
I
feet.
mean, it comes down to that certainty question again. And generally, look, I'm not saying that it's an unfounded want. Everybody wants to know that what they're doing is the right thing. You don't want to be doing the wrong thing.
And then there's hell to pay if you're wrong.
But beyond, I mean, even in like let's say a drug cartel, there's certain behavior that is the accepted behavior and the right thing to do in that context. So they are also cognizant of that all the time. But it's like it's a
Wow.
human thing. We want to be okay with what we're doing and the context and the social thing. But to get there, there's a certain level of certainty that we need to have before we can function. And I find that within the truth world or the world of truth, that we tend to sell a lot of our freedoms away for that feeling of safety and certainty. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that certainty exists. Maybe it's delving into the last topic of the perceptions of reality, but it's like as we grow up, we fed a lot of lies, and when we discover those lies are all lies, we have a bit of a fallout. We maybe have a knee-jerk reaction. The same thing when it drops into you, like with apartheid, is that it's wrong. Then you have a response,
Yeah.
and you're either gonna settle with it, this is the way it is, or you're gonna do a stand up against it and want it fixed. Um, that's a very complicated topic, though. I must say.
Yeah, no.
But I mean that's how we work, man. And the thing is, like,
Mm.
I almost want to say Christianity feeds off that. Churches are built on that.
Uncertainty. Are you saying built on uncertainty?
No, they're built on selling certainty, but
Oh,
taking
yes.
away certain things from you. And governments are built on that. Society is built on that. Just like even with the pandemic coming along, the divide in response is immediate. You can see people who are compliant, people who are more
Defiant.
no, they look defiant, but they're actually just free. It's like so freedom looks like defiance to the person who's compliant, and these divides get militarized, if you want to put it that way. Worse now that we have social media where you can express your private opinion in a public space. And you used to have little micro worlds of these things, and in the church you have the polarizations of certain things, whatever they consider right and wrong. And then you also see the defiant ones might not be defiant, and they might not be what's the word that is close to witchcraft, rebellious. Rebellion.
Sure.
Like
How did you tie that?
No, that's a
must
scripture.
read your Bible, Daryl. That's in the Bible.
But now you get a person in that.
I thought I'm in a place where I don't need to read the Bible anymore. Anyways, go.
Fair enough.
How can I say? It's just when you look at all these things, man, it's like you almost have to mind your P's and Q's wherever you go, basically. So I don't generally share my opinion on Facebook anymore. It doesn't mean I don't want to. I read some posts and I'm thinking, you need a lesson in life. And sometimes I'm just like, it's not worth it, man. And maybe Twitter is the place that people go because they're a lot more anonymous there. And it's a much meaner place. And then you realize humanity is not a very good thing. The base level of it. And where people feel that they don't have to adhere to the normal rules and where they're free to share their opinions, they will.
They go for it.
I mean, I'll never forget, even Mixit allowed people not to be their authentic self and have conversations with people they probably wouldn't or shouldn't have had. And I mean, slowly but certainly, you will see the change of the social media where WhatsApp and those things connects you to reality. So you can't, I mean, it's your cell phone is there, everybody can see it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to be anonymous. But given the space, if you applied what's it, anonymity in the Christian context, I think we'd have very different people we'll be talking to, and what the topics would be, and
I
what
think
would be
we'll have
considered
a
right and wrong.
we'd have a whole lot of catfish Christians.
I was having
You're
that
like, hey,
conversation yesterday.
And look, I mean, all you have to ask is a woman on Facebook, what does your inbox look like? And she'll tell you. You don't want to know.
Yeah.
But
It's,
the point is that
she's like,
authenticity is not a desire there, man.
she's like, yo, if you look at my inbox, you'd think I'll be making money with all these requests.
But look, it also comes down to, and I know, to me, the story of the Garden of Eden is as an allegory, if you want to call it that way. Just a story told so that we understand that we come from somewhere.
okay.
But there is still that question when they sin and God says, "Where are you?" I mean, this is an all-knowing being. He's not asking where are you physically.
Hmm.
He's like, why are you not being authentic with me? Why are you not being your real self? What are you hiding? And why do we still do that? So, I mean, we'll now
Shame.
say we've been washed by the blood, no more sin, and we will still not be ourselves with each other.
Hmm.
And I've lost a lot of things in my life because I'm quite verbal about what my failings were and are, I suppose. And then people think they have an edge over you when you share, let's say, like my drug past or whatever. So they know, yeah, you're not gonna make it, yeah. But go for it, share your stuff.
Sorry.
But yeah, anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the culture of the judgment, man. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. Yes.
So it's better for me to expose everybody else than for me to be myself. And then everybody knows me. It's like, oh shit, they know who I am. Yeah, I mean. And like you say, the ones then who do start to speak out to be themselves, they get seen as the defiant ones because you're failing in public, man. You know what I mean? Or not even sometimes failing, just what they see as the do's and don'ts, and maybe you step on a few of their don'ts, but it doesn't bother you because you know you have a better handle on your relationship with God, or you have a better handle on who you are, and you know that something like that doesn't affect the, the trajectory of your life, man. Where to them maybe a small little sin in inverted commas makes or breaks them, and or their chances of, as you said earlier, that'll hell. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's safer then to put on the face, man, because you can't hide from God. If He is all knowing and all seeing, at best you're just hiding from your people around you. You know, your brothers and your sisters, as they say.
I think like Lindy was leading to you hiding from yourself. I mean, in yourself not being authentic. The reference to the garden, just not just not being yourself, and well, I think what is ironic also is that in the context of church, you'll see people make groupes or groups based on how authentic they can, how much of themselves they can be with that person.
Mm.
When you know, if I put it like this, doesn't have to be. You get the fictitious groups, people aren't really themselves, but let's just put it this way: when they get together and they're having a drink, or they're doing things that is against the status quo of the public persona in a church, those ones that they can do things with privately, they tend to cling to. Although there's always the nature that you can betray that trust, but it's just who can you trust? And when you can't be yourself, you can't trust yourself either.
Debbie.
Yeah, got me also, and I said it. I don't know how we're doing for time, but if you're watching this, thank you for tuning into the Fresh Space. And we're moving into why the Fresh Space was created, and very much a space for, and for an honest opinion, and to find people that you can trust to accept you for who you are. And I think the hardest thing is that people take that for granted. It's just easier to put on a mask.
Are you asking now why Fresh Space exists?
Yeah, I'm not so much as not so much. I think why it exists for me, I get, but um, I think we're adding value to why it exists for each of us. But yeah, why does it exist? In the
I can tell you that easily.
mm,
Look, I mean, we spent a couple of years and it's still the three of us. But to me, why I wanted a place where we could talk about things and be who we are, I suppose, is because it's not allowed in normal life. Um, and I just want to create a space that allows it. So no holds barred. And then I think Francis Schaeffer used to have a place called La Brie, where it was a house where even heads of state could come and just discuss things about what they believe the truth to be and whatever.
Okay.
Though we can't necessarily always create a house where they physically come, we can have a space where people, we all need times in life, and I'm not saying we must be a space when you only eat hard times, but I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but as soon as something happens that you can't answer, sometimes your beliefs fail you there. And if you're not contemplating those things and talking about those things, it is better to know that there is a place that does.
Yeah. Also, not saying
yeah, I
we
mean,
have all the answers to all the questions.
No, but
yeah, I mean,
I
if
don't think it's about finding answers, in my opinion.
No.
To me, it's better that you can just talk about it. And I'm not
yeah, I
saying a
think
counseling session.
We can
yeah, yeah, we'll refer you to the what's it? Fresh Space Normal. Fresh Space Normal at 8 p.m. later tonight. Tune in for your free counseling sessions. Uh, I think a lot of people make reference to the cliche iron sharpens iron, but it's more, I think, more a spectrum to just be able to just be yourself. And if you are iron, which I think, and I'm sorry, Lenny, to use you as an example, because you're a sharp piece of iron, so you cut a lot of people mentally and intellectually, and chop up women like they believe they were men. Get the smack down in reality.
make him
But
sound like a serial killer.
Serial killer. I'm
you
that
would
song
definitely.
for the churches. I go pew pew pew.
So the depth of being yourself and being authentic is always going to have consequences. And I never lived a life where I was always misunderstood, most likely. But it's hard to not see when someone is being authentic. For me, it's hard for me to not see when someone's being authentic. Like it's easier for me to discern the deception and to just go along in the. I think you made reference to the la-di-da conversations,
La la
how
land.
you doing, la la land conversations. And only when someone starts to touch on the truth is when they make you question your own space, your own comfort space. And those relationships I've treasured, and this is for me why Fresh Space exists. I feel like if we don't have that iron sharpens iron, if you don't have people that touch on that space, that push you out of that comfort zone, that make you feel uncomfortable, like we've had people that have joined us and have left because they cannot handle being fingered. You know,
Oh,
you must be able to handle being fingered.
discuss. Why would you do it like that?
You can do whatever you want it to be done, as long as long as you start to, spread out and stretch and receive the point.
Yeah,
So
it's always hard to hear that you're doing
things
something wrong,
wrong.
or you're seeing something the wrong way. Maybe I don't say doing things wrong. Everybody's got their own way. But like sometimes you hear a different perspective. Like I don't know if it was Lenny or you said, it makes you question, man. You know what I mean? And nobody likes to question that certainty we spoke about earlier. And nobody likes to question those foundations, because sometimes it means you have to restructure everything. You know what I mean? If one thing,
Mm.
if one thing is a lie, what else is a lie? And if that thing is the one thing that you've been holding on to your entire life, now you need to restructure and you need to rethink. And people hate that, like, because that takes time, that takes focus, that takes facing things you don't want to face. So yeah, well, it's got to start at some point. Man. It's not the best experience to go through, but it gets the best results in the end, man. You know what I mean? When you do look at those things, you look back and you go, "Wow, I'm glad I did it when I did it." Because the longer you take to be yourself or be authentic or be real and look at yourself for who you really are, the longer you live in, as Lenny keeps saying, la la land, and
Mm.
nothing changes.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't have anything against people that like living in La La Land, that enjoy
You
the.
don't, yes. I do.
I'm not
I mean,
against them either.
yeah, I mean, I kind of realize, like, you, even if you want to shake their foundations and rock their world and tip their reality upside down, they're going to cling on to the facade and just rebuild that same, perception of what their world is supposed to be. They're going to cling on to it.
Yeah.
And that isn't because that isn't because of you, but that is because they're not ready to question, they're not ready to change. And with this pandemic and the the just say 25 services, I can see it play out in people not, they're not wanting to change, man. They like, that is why I would say denominational structure and the culture within the church is so attractive, because there's that certainty, there's that structure. This is how things must be done. Now there seems like so much red tape that, is it even worth it? Which is where they start questioning. That's why I said it's such a good thing, because now people are questioning: do I really need to fill in a questionnaire? Must you take my temperature? I must give my ID number. You need proof of address just so that I can be one of the 50 people to come into church. And people's like, they've literally, out of the 50, there's only 30 people that attend generally. So whatever had transpired in a full church where there was always that 20% of people of that was empty, it's the same 20% in a 50 seater, which
Mm.
means that it's something that is in the organization. There's a percentage that is always going to be questioning, that is always ready for that. Whereas the majority of people will always rebuild La La Land for themselves, because that is where their certainty lies, that we know what God's character is about. And I mean, I like to refer to a previous conversation that we had in our Fresh Post sessions, where we referred to um, the rock that moved with him, the the nature of God moving and changing and not being the same. And that Christian clearly says, no, you know what? He's the same today, tomorrow, yesterday, today, tomorrow, something like
Carol,
that.
have you ever read the Bible?
No, I haven't, but that cliche, a scriptural reference and cliche.
That is very
The
concerning.
reason
I mean,
Yeah.
what is it? Oh, you're saying that you
I
haven't
know
read the
it's
whole
biblical,
Bible?
I
Oh,
know
you
it's
haven't?
biblical, but what I'm saying is that it becomes a cliche. It's like, okay, you made reference to the let's just leave it at that. I'm not the biblical authority. I'm not the preacher's kid.
Yeah.
I'm just the host. Yeah, I'm the hostess of the mostest.
Mm.
Just leave it at that. But yeah, for me, it's just the cliches become something that is part of the La La Land. So we rebuild that nature of certainty, and not
And
the the foundation of question.
Not everybody's after the truth. Like, if you like, I've spoken to someone and I've said, "No, on a journey. Like, I want to know what is real. Like, what is the truth?" And they asked me why. Why? And funny enough, I'm looking at this guy. I'm going, "Nah, man, this guy's joking. For real, he's joking. No ways he can be serious." And he looked at me and he said, "What do I need to know the truth for? Like, this way, I'm not held accountable for what I don't know." And I say, yes, but it's not about accountability. You don't want to, whether there's an
actually is.
afterlife, whether there's something after this or not. You don't want to get to the end and go, I should have been doing this. You know what I mean? And even then, he was like, no, but then I'll be dead, and it's pointless what I could have and should have done. So a lot of people reason that way, that everything that they know now is all that they need to know for now. And obviously, I can't live that way. It's difficult for me to live that way, but a lot of people do. And you can't. I think that's what makes this gathering different from a religious thing. Is a religious person would try and enforce that on them. No, you have to want to know. But yeah, you just go like, if you don't want to know, it's fine. You know what I mean? You don't have to know if you don't want to know. But the people who say they want to know, let's talk, right? So it's not so much that they create La La Land. It's like they enjoy La La Land. They want to be there.
Tra-la-la-la-la.
You stepped on the mic. I thought you were going to say something serious. But yeah, you said something that I don't. It's just like you tell me, like the. But it was. Sorry, I lost my train of thought and started to sing.
Write it down. Akuda is always sitting with a page and writing it down.
I just missed it, man. I was laughing myself. I just missed it. But yeah, I think it's the experience that they get from the experience that I get from questioning. I feel like it revitalizes my relationship and with you guys, obviously, but with God. Like, if I'm not questioning, I don't feel like I'm really connected to Him. And if I'm not asking Him and like, yo, what is this? Why are these things like this? It's not that I need the particular answer, but I enjoy the relationship that I have like that, as opposed to feeling like I'm separate from God and there's this. He's already said it. And that is just final. You know, it's almost like that strict parent, man. You know, that's it. Klar, I don't even want to talk about it. So I think they enjoy that as well. They probably come from those kind of households.
They don't have to think that way, and they don't have to take responsibility for anything that they do or say. It boils down to that.
Sorry, yeah, they just brought back again. Yeah, what it does boil down to, and like you were saying, and that guy put it perfectly, is accountability. Like when you start to question, you start to actually take accountability for your life, for this thing that you're involved in, for whatever. Whereas before that, and I've tried it and it works with traffic cops, they can't give you a fine unless you take accountability and you know what law you broke. So they'll always ask you, do you know what you did there? You can say no, then they can't fine you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow,
That's why I was thinking about what your friend said. Legally, I mean, he's thinking that when he gets, there in front of God, he'll be like, yo, I didn't know. It's like, so I went to church, but
he had that conversation with me. I'm joking.
But yeah, I mean, maybe it was that conversation had nothing to do about rights and wrongs or any shit like that. All it had to do with is accountability. Do you take accountability for your own life, or are you making your life somebody else's problem? Saying like, even the devil, you're making your life the devil's problem. Like everything you're doing wrong is demonic, and the devil just has to take blame for everything that has gone wrong in your life, and you had no control over any decisions or reactions.
I must have.
Lucifer.
It was easier. I was just like, I'm under attack this week. Man, the devil.
Yes, that damn that gun. Oh, she's attacking me.
I must do some sewing.
I had to laugh. There was this picture of these three people, and then I think they were in some Christian retreat, and then this guy was saying, this children of Satan or something like that, and then Church of Satan responds there. Those three identify as Christian. They've got nothing to do with us. Please don't blame us.
Nah, that Church of Satan on Twitter is hilarious. I can't help it, but it is hilarious. Like anyway, let's not go down that road.
But it would be, and we can go down
things-
the road.
the-
And that's why
those-
we
those
exist.
things Christian people say. You also like, do they group me with this guy? You know what I mean? You like almost want to go. Look, just for the record, I'm not with that guy.
But there was a comment also that's like, oh, 3 Karens.
Yeah, that is a swear word now. God and
Imagine your name Karen, you like don't want to tell people your name anymore.
well, they say Karen. Karen. I know a Karen. She probably doesn't even know.
Mm-mm. Yeah, so we shall call it for this one.
Yeah.
Yes, I think in conclusion, if you are still tuning in and following, we are definitely a space where we want to have a fresh approach. And I wanted to say this in conclusion, that if the Church of Satan as a group and are able to question them by all rights, we are also. And we are not subscribing to either side. We're not sitting on the fence. We're leveling the playing field and allowing you to express who you are. And come play swordy sword with us here. Let's express who we are. Thank you, Tyrone Marinas, Lenny Pillay, and myself, Daryl Williams, signing off. Thank you for being a part of our Fresh Space.